مرحبا بالجميع، وأهلا وسهلا فيكم وسوري على التأخير. بس نهاد قبل ما بلش ممكن تأكدي لي أنه my screen is showing and everything is okay.
Yes, we can see your screen. Thank you, Ms. Hanan.
Okay, perfect. Thanks نهاد. أهلا وسهلا بكل الطلاب وبالمدرسين وبجميع المشاركين. وطبعا نحن جدا مبسوطين انه هيدي تاني سيشن وانتم معنا. وهيدي السيشن رح تكون الجلسة الثانية، وهي عن فهم التحديات المتعلقة بالهوية الوطنية الإماراتية واستكشاف جميع الحلول المقترحة. فاليوم رح نغوص أكثر بالتحديات ورح نحكي عن الحلول اللي ممكن إنه نقترحها مع بعض، وكيف ممكن هيدا الشيء يخلينا نصمم ونفكر بفكرة تطبيق تكون جدا فعالة. طبعا بدي أعرفكم عن حالي في حال عندي مشتركين أول مرة بيشاركونا. أنا حنان حسن، وأنا مدرب متخصص من شركة أبل، وأكيد سعيدة أني موجودة معكم اليوم. شو هو جدول الأعمال لجلسة اليوم؟ أول شيء رح نحكي عن ملخص الجلسة الأولى، ورح نلخص أهم الأشياء اللي حكينا عنها بالجلسة الأولى. رح نحكي عن مرحلتين. المرحلة الأولى تحليل التحديات اللي بتواجه الهوية الوطنية الإماراتية، والمرحلة الثانية هي استكشاف الحلول الممكنة لهي التحديات. النقطة الرابعة اللي رح نحكي عنها هي جدا مفيدة، وبطلب منكم كلكم تركزوا فيها. رح نعطيكم أفكار وأمثلة على تطبيقات موجودة حاليا وكلنا بنستعملها، كيف ممكن نستفيد من هاي التطبيقات ونربطها بفكرة نحن نفكر فيها وتكون جديدة ومفيدة. وآخر شيء رح نختم بالإجابة على أسئلتكم. فممكن تسجلوا أي سؤال عندكم لحتى تتأكدوا إنكم تسألوا بآخر الجلسة. بالنسبة لتلخيص الجلسة الأولى، خلال الجلسة الأولى نحن حكينا عن تحدي تصميم iOS. شو هو تحدي تصميم iOS؟ حكينا أنه هو مبادرة وطنية لجميع الطلاب اللي بتتراوح أعمارهم بين 13 و 18 عام. هيدي المبادرة تم إنشائها من صندوق الوطن بالتعاون مع متخصصي التعلم المهني من شركة أبل لتطوير الجيل القادم من مطوري التطبيقات في الإمارات العربية المتحدة. الفكرة طبعا جدا أعمق من هيك، لأنه خلال هيدا التحدي وهيدا التشالنج اللي رح تكونوا فيها رح تفكروا بكيفية إدارة المشاريع، كيفية القيام ب تفكير بتطبيق سهل يستهدف فئات عمرية معينة، كيفية التفكير بالديزاين أو التصميم الخاص بهذا التطبيق، المشاركة والتعاون. التحدي هو بيتطرق لأشياء عديدة جدا رح تمروا فيها خلال هيدا التشالنج. طبعا كمان حكينا الجلسة الماضية انه 300 فائز رح يتأهلوا من هيدي المسابقة ليدخلوا على برنامج سويفت اكسلريترز، او بنسميها مسرعات سويفت. هودي الاشخاص اللي رح يتأهلوا اللي عددهم 300 رح يكون عندهم 180 ساعة من التعليم البرمجي وعمل المشاريع. رح يحصلوا على جهاز ماك بوك جديد. رح يحصلوا على دعوة لحضور حفل التخرج واللي هي جدا مميزة. رح يحضروا جلسات مع ضيوف متخصصين من أبل، ورح يكون يحصلوا على شهادة احترافية وفرصة لنشر التطبيق على متجر التطبيقات. في شغلة جدا مهمة، إنه جهاز الماك بوك رح تحصلوا عليه في حال انتوا دخلتوا بالبرنامج الخاص بسويفت اكسلريتر، واذا انتوا اول مره بتشتركوا وبتنجحوا بهاي المسابقه. اذا كنتوا حاصلين على هاي الجائزه من قبل ما رح تقدروا انه تحصلوا عليها مره ثانيه. كيف ممكن نحن انه نضاعف فرص الفوز؟ اول شيء لازم انه تكملوا جميع المهام الموجوده على LMS اللي حكينا عنه بالجلسة الماضية. جدا مهم انه تدخلوا عليه وتتأكدوا انه تكملوا جميع المهام. لازم يكون في عمل جماعي فعال وواضح للجان اللي رح تقيم انه هيدا العمل تم بطريقة جماعية، وكان في كان في فعلا كولابوريشن وتعاون بين الأشخاص. لازم تحضروا جميع الندوات والجلسات مع الضيوف، وتتأكدوا إنكم فكرتوا منيح بالتحدي، فكرة التطبيق، وفكرتوا منيح بالجمهور اللي رح تستهدفوه. هل هو أطفال؟ هل هو كبار في العمر؟ هل هن مدرسين؟ فهي الأشياء كلها بتخلي فرصكم للفوز تكون أكتر وأكتر. نحن كلجنة رح تكون بتقييم العمل اللي انتم رح تسلموه. شو عم ندور؟ شو الأشياء اللي لازم تكون موجودة؟ أول شيء لازم تسليم مجلة التطبيق تكون كاملة. لازم نموذج التطبيق كمان يتسلم ويكون كامل. فيديو العرض كمان لازم يتسلم ويكون واضح، يوضح فكرة التطبيق. طبعا لازم تعرفوا انه في عنا معايير موجودة في الLMS، وجدا مهم انه انتم تشوفوا هاي المعايير بجميع الاوقات. يعني كل ما اشتغلتوا على جزء من هذا التحدي لازم تتأكدوا انه المعايير موجودة قدامكم، انتم عارفين شو التفاصيل وشو الاشياء بالمعايير اللي رح تطلع عليها لجنة التحكيم. فمثل ما حكينا الالتزام بالتحدي هي شغلة جدا مهمة. لازم يكون التطبيق أو الفكرة إلها علاقة بالهوية الإماراتية. طبعا لازم تكون فكرة التطبيق واضحة جذابة. لازم النموذج الأول اللي تسلموه يكون يشتغل يعطينا الفكرة العامة، وأكيد فيديو العرض واضح. ولازم تراعوا اللي هو مين الأشخاص اللي رح تستخدم التطبيق، اللي نحن بنسميهم الجمهور المستهدف. المرة الماضية تم طرح أسئلة شو هي الشهادات اللي رح يتم تسليمها. رح يتم تسليم شهادة بحضور السويفت اكسلريتر، طبعا بعد حضور للبروجرام من الاب ديفلوبمنت وذ سويفت، سو هيدي من ابل. ورح يتم تسليم شهادة ثانية من صندوق الوطن انه تم حضور السويفت اكسلريتر UAE بهيدي الطريقة. فرح يتم تسليم شهادتين، وحدة من أبل ووحدة من صندوق الوطن. في شغلة جدا مهمة حابة أخبركم عنها، أنه رح يكون في جلسة للفائزين السابقين، رح تكون يوم الثلاثاء 5 نوفمبر. جدا مهم أنكم تحضروها، لأنه فرصة لأنكم تعرفوا عن خبرتهم. أكيد رح يشاركوا معكم تفاصيل العمل اللي هن قاموا فيه، كيف نجحوا وكيف فازوا بهيدا التحدي. فجدا مهم أنكم تحضروها، وأكيد رح يوصلكم يعني معلومات عن موعد الجلسة بالتحديد. كيف يتم التسجيل؟ بيتم التسجيل عن طريق الموقع إذا بتعملوا سكان لهيدا الكود بياخدكم على تحدي تصميم iOS، اللي هو عن طريقه بيتم التسجيل والريجستريشن للتحدي. في نقطة جدا مهمة لازم نحكي فيها، إنه التسجيل ما بيتم دايركتلي من الطلاب. لازم المدرسين أو اللي نحن بنسميهم قادة النوادي هن يسجلوا، وبعد ما يتم تسجيل المدرسين رح يسجلوا الطلاب. فيكم تعملوا سكان للكود إذا لم يتم التسجيل لحتى الآن، لحتى تضمنوا أنه تسجلوا طلابكم. كمان نقطة جدا مهمة هي قناة واتساب. قناة واتساب هي مخصصة لتحدي تصميم iOS، بيدعم قادة النوادي، بيعطي معلومات وتواريخ مهمة عن الجلسات القادمة، عن ريكوردينجز للسيشنز اللي انعملت. فكتير بيتم مشاركة معلومات مهمة عن طريق هيدي التشانل اللي هي التشانل الخاصة بواتساب. سو بليز كمان إذا بعد ما دخلتوا على التشانل فيكم تعملوا سكان وفيكم تنضموا لهيدي التشانل. وآخر شغلة كمان جدا مهم إنكم تعرفوها، اللي هي البريد الإلكتروني. في حال كان عندكم سؤال معين ما لقيتوا إجابته على الويب سايت مثلا، أو ما لقيتوا إجابته أو معلومات عنه في الواتساب شانل، فيكم تبعتوا إيميل ل iosdesign@salwatan.ae، وهن أكيد الفريق المتخصص، فريق الدعم، رح يجاوب على أسئلتكم. طبعا حكينا المرة الماضية كمان إنه شو هو الثيم أو موضوع التحدي لهذا العام، هو الهوية الوطنية الإماراتية. الهوية الوطنية الإماراتية هو موضوع جدا كبير، رح نجرب نختصره ونركز على أشياء معينة خلال هاي الجلسة. بس قبل ما نبلش بدي أعمل تذكير نهائي. قادة النادي بهيدا الوقت لازم أول شيء يقوموا بتسجيل الطلاب، تاني شيء يتعرفوا على المحتوى اللي موجود بالLMS، ثالث شيء لازم يتصلوا بقناة الواتساب الخاصة اللي هلأ من شوي عرضت لها الQR كود تبعها. إذا انتوا عاملين هاو 3 أشياء فانتوا على المسار الصحيح. واذا كنتوا ما عملتوا هودي 3 نقاط، بليز بعد الجلسة اتأكدوا انه تسجلوا الطلاب، تتعرفوا على المحتوى اللي موجود بالLMS، وكمان تدخلوا على الواتساب شانل. بالنسبة للطلاب لازم يتم إكمال المهمة الأولى اللي هي تكوين الفريق. لازم يسجلوا الدخول إلى كانفاس اللي هو الLMS الكامل تبع التحدي، ولازم كمان يتصلوا بلوحة فيجما. كيف رح يعرفوا أكثر عن لوحة فيجما؟ عن طريق الLMS موجود معلومات وروابط بتدخلكم على لوحة فيجما. وآخر شيء الطلاب لازم ينزلوا مجلة التطبيق إما كبيجز دوكيومنت أو كPDF. أوكي، هاي الأشياء الطلاب إذا بعد ما عملوها رجاء أنه تعملوها لحتى تكونوا على المسار الصحيح وتمشوا معنا مع الجلسات ومع التدريبات الموجودة، وما يروح عليكم أي معلومات مهمة. طيب، أول نقطة رح نحكي عنها اليوم بالهوية الإماراتية، الهوية الوطنية الإماراتية، هي التحديات. شو هي التحديات بالهوية الوطنية الإماراتية؟ طبعا أكيد كلنا بنعرف إنه في تحديات كتير كبيرة، بس لما بنفكر بالهوية الوطنية وبالتحديات جدا مهم إنه نركز على الأساسيات. عندنا نحن أساسين، التراث والقيم. فأنا مش معقول لما بدي إجي فكر بالتطبيق فكر بطريقة عشوائية. أنا بدي أحكي عن الثقافة، عن اللغة والدين أو القيم الأخلاقية. هيدا الشيء بيضيعكم وبيضيع فكرة التطبيق. أول شيء لازم تعملوه، لازم تفكروا أنا رح اختار تراث أو القيم. إذا اخترت التراث فأنا لازم استكشف الجوانب الثقافية والتاريخية الغنية بالهوية الوطنية. وكمان التطبيق اللي أنا بدي أفكر فيه تحت التراث لازم يكون إما عن الثقافة أو اللغة أو الدين. إذا اخترت القيم فأنا لازم ركز على القيم الأخلاقية أو القيم الاقتصادية. فأنا لما أعمل تخصيص للفكرة تنجح الفكرة وبينجح التطبيق معي أكثر. بتمنى أنه تكون وصلت الفكرة، رح نشرح عنها أكثر شوي. طبعا هاي مقولة للشيخ زايد بن سلطان آل نهيان رحمه الله: أمة بلا ماض هي أمة بلا حاضر أو مستقبل. هيدي المقولة بتخلينا نفكر أكثر بأهمية ماضينا وأهمية حاضرنا وأهمية الحفاظ على مستقبلنا عن طريق طبعا الحفاظ على الهوية الإماراتية، وعن طريق التفكير بلغتنا، بديننا، بعاداتنا، بتقاليدنا. فهيدا الشيء بخلينا نعمل تفكير عميق بقديه نحن بهاي البلد الجميلة فعلا عم نحافظ على الهوية الإماراتية، فعلا عم نحافظ على اللغة العربية، على الدين الإسلامي. فهيدي الجملة بتخلينا نتعمق أكثر ونفكر بطريقة كتير مميزة ليصير عنا فكرة للتطبيق لحماية الهوية الإماراتية. هاي مرة تانية عم برجع أنا أعرض لكم الأقسام الخاصة والأساسيات الهوية الإماراتية. عندي التراث، تحت التراث بيندرج اللغة العربية، الثقافة، الدين. عندي القيم، تحت القيم تندرج القيم والأخلاق أو القيم الاقتصادية. عندي قيم أخلاقية وقيم اقتصادية. فإذا أنا اخترت إني آخذ البيلر الأول أو الأساس الأول اللي هو التراث، فأنا لازم أختار يا إما اللغة العربية يا إما ثقافة يا إما الدين. ونفس الشيء بينطبق على القيم. إذا اخترت القيم لازم أختار يا إما القيم الأخلاقية والرحمة مثلا، أو القيم الاقتصادية وروح الريادة أو الانفتاح مثلا. هل ممكن إنه يصير في تقاطع بين القيم أو التراث؟ طبعا ممكن يصير في تقاطع، بس أنا لازم ركز على شغلة وحدة ولازم تطبيقي يعكس شغلة معينة. alright so تراث، اللغة، الثقافة، الدين. لنفترض أنا بدي أختار اللغة العربية مثلا. رح أعطيكم مثال. اللغة العربية كلنا بنعرف إنه في تراجع باستخدام اللغة العربية، خصوصاً عند الأطفال والمراهقين. شو السبب؟ السبب إنه اللغة الإنجليزية اللي هي اللغة الطاغية أكثر، لأنه 90% من المدارس بدولة الإمارات اللغة الأساسية بالتعليم هي اللغة العربية. فأنا رح أمسك موضوع التراث ورح أختار اللغة العربية ورح أفكر بتطبيق يدعم اللغة العربية. فمثلا ممكن أنا أختار تطبيق يستهدف فئة معينة من الناس اللي هن أجين الأطفال والمراهقين، ويمكن هيدا التطبيق أعمله بطريقة كتير مميزة، إنه يكون في ألوان، يكون الواجهة سلسة وسهلة الاستخدام لحتى تسهل على هيدي الفئة العمرية إنه يستخدموا هيدا التطبيق. رح نحكي أكتر بعد شوي. نفس الشيء بالنسبة للقيم. بعتقد أنه وضحت الصورة، أنه هي التركيز على نقطة معينة تحت البيلر أو الأساس اللي أنا استخدمته. شو العوامل الرئيسية اللي يجب مراعاتها لما نحن نشتغل على التطبيق اللي بدنا نشتغل عليه؟ أو شو هي المشاكل الأساسية؟ التحديث هو أنه أنا عندي أشياء جدا عم بتصير بالعالم وتحديثات بكل المجالات الاقتصادية ومجالات كل مجالات الحياة. بنفس الوقت أنا بدي تابع هيدا التحديث، بس بنفس الوقت بدي أحمي هويتي ولغتي وديني. كمان العولمة، الانفتاح اللي بدولة الإمارات جدا كبير. نحن عنا انفتاح على جميع دول العالم. كيف ممكن أنا انفتح على جميع دول العالم، على لغاتهم، على ثقافاتهم، على عاداتهم وتقاليدهم، بس احمي عاداتي وتقاليدي وديني ولغتي؟ التحولات الديموغرافية هي شيء تاني كمان، هيدا تشالنج تاني. التنمية الاقتصادية، الاقتصاد العالمي. كل هاي الأشياء لازم ناخدها بعين الاعتبار لما أنا بدي أفكر بفكرة التطبيق. طبعا في نقطة نسيت خبركم إياها. معلومات وافرة وجدا مفيدة بتلاقوها بالLMS، فرح تقدروا توصلوا لنتيجة لما تقرأوا المعلومات وتعملوا الأكتيفيتيز اللي موجودين بالLMS. alright. هلأ في عندي بعض الأسئلة اللي بدي إياكم تجاوبوا عليها، اللي هي خاصة بالهوية الإماراتية. بدي منكم بليز تعملوا سكان للكيو آر كود اللي موجود على الشاشة. هيدا الكيو آر كود رح ياخدنا على بادلت. أول شيء رح أفتح على البادلت لحتى نقدر نشوفها مع بعض. نهاد، بس بدي منك بعد شوي تأكدي لي إنه عم نقدر نشوف البادلت.
أنا من ناحيتي عم بقدر أشوف البادلت.
ممتاز، بيرفكت. هلا بهيدي البادلت رح نبلش بالأسئلة من اليسار لليمين. في عندي 3 أسئلة. هودي ال3 أسئلة رح يخولونا نفكر بعمق عن العناصر الأساسية اللي تعرف الهوية الإماراتية، التحديات اللي بتواجه الهوية الوطنية الإماراتية في ظل هيدا العالم المتغير بسرعة كتير كبيرة، وكيف يمكن الحفاظ على الهوية الإماراتية مع التركيز على الابتكار. انسوا السؤالين الرابع والخامس، بدي منكم تختاروا سؤالين من هاي الثلاث أسئلة وتجاوبوا عليها. لازم تضغطوا على بلس وبعدين تكتبوا الجواب هون أو هون. طبعا هون فيكم تكتبوا الاسم وتحت فيكم تكتبوا الجواب اللي بدكم إياه. رح ناخد شوية وقت وننطر لحتى تفكروا بأي سؤال رح تبلشوا. طبعا عندي 3 أسئلة، السؤال الأول الثاني الثالث، بدي تختاروا سؤالين وتجاوبوا عليهم ونحن بالانتظار. أوكي، عندي أول إجابة. العادات والتقاليد طبعا هي عنصر جدا أساسي من الهوية الإماراتية. عندي العادات والتقاليد والتراث الإماراتي. شكرا كتير لعلي على الإجابة. اللهجة الإماراتية، طبعا في أفكار جدا حلوة لتطبيقات بتخدم اللهجة الإماراتية. أنا عم بعطيكم يعني ideas ممكن إنه تستفيدوا منها. عندي التعرف أكثر على دورة الإمارات من رقية. شكرا كتير رقية لإلك. عندي كمان التاريخ واللغة العربية، أكيد هيدي عنصر أساسي. أجين اللهجة الإماراتية. عندي اللغة والتراث والتقاليد والدين، الدين الإسلامي، الثقافة، التراث، اللغة العربية. عندي طبعا القيم شيء جدا مهم، سواء كانت قيم أخلاقية أو قيم اقتصادية. الانتماء الوطني، التسامح. عندي إجابة من عائشة. الهوية الإماراتية تشمل اللغة، الدين، التراث، الوحدة الوطنية، الولاء للقيادة. هيدي ما حدا ذكرها وهيدي شغلة جدا جدا مهمة. العادات والتقاليد، التسامح، الانتماء، التاريخ المشترك، الرموز الوطنية، التعايش السلمي. شكرا كتير أخت عائشة على الإجابة الوافرة. عندي كمان صراحة كتير عندي إجابات حلوة وما شاء الله بلشتوا تجاوبوا بجميع الأسئلة. شكرا كتير لكم. بس حابة غطي شوية أجوبة من التحديات. التغيرات الاجتماعية والاقتصادية، هيدا أول جواب وأنا بعتقد هيدا جدا مهم. هيدا بسبب الانفتاح الكبير والاختلاط مع الجنسيات والثقافات الأخرى، فلا شعوريا تنعكس بعض التغيرات الاجتماعية والاقتصادية. العولمة وتعدد الثقافات طبعا، الثقافات الدخيلة أو الثقافات اللي هي المختلفة عن ثقافة دولة الإمارات. هيدا تحدي كتير كبير. كيف نحن فينا نكون منفتحين مثل ما حكيت قبل شوي، بس بنفس الوقت نحافظ على ثقافة دولة الإمارات. الانفتاح والدين واختلاف طريقة الحياة. طبعا أكيد أنا بوافقك الرأي 100%. اختلاف طرق الحياة ممكن تأثر على فئة معينة من أولادنا اللي هن المراهقين، أنه المراهقين بيتأثروا بطرق حياة مختلفة بيشوفوها موجودة في دولة الإمارات من الثقافات الأخرى أو حتى على السوشيال ميديا. وهيدا الشيء بيخليهم يفكروا أنه ليش نحن ما بنعيش بهي الطريقة أو ما بنعمل هيدي الأشياء مثل ما هن بيعملوها. هيدا ريسك كتير كبير ولازم نحن نلاقي طريقة لهيدي المشاكل. تغيير اهتمامات الجيل الجديد. طبعا مع تغير الزمن رح يدخل ناس لهم عادات مختلفة من أماكن مختلفة. أكيد ممكن إنه تغير عادات وتقاليد الإمارات. أنا جدا بوافقك الرأي. ممتاز. مستر محمد، شكرا كثير على الإجابة. إذا كنا نريد أن يعني نحافظ على الهوية الوطنية، يجب علينا أن نحافظ على لغتنا العربية. أول شيء هي اللغة العربية أكيد. آه، الناس تواجه صعوبة في التحدث باللغة العربية. التغيرات الاجتماعية، تعدد وتغير الأجيال، نسيان العادات والتقاليد، نسيان يمكن التراث الإماراتي. أخت عائشة عم بتقول إنه بتواجه الهوية الوطنية الإماراتية تحديات مثل العولمة، تكنولوجيا، تأثيرات الهجرة. طبعا التكنولوجيا كلنا بنعرف إنه هي سيف ذو حدين. ممكن إذا استخدمناها صح هي تعمل سبورت ودعم للهوية الإماراتية، وممكن إذا استخدمناها غلط ما وجهناها بالطريقة الصحيحة فهي ممكن إنه تضر بهويتنا ولغتنا وعاداتنا وتقاليدنا. أوكي. انتشار اللغة الإنجليزية هو تشالنج، مظبوط. كتير حلوة أجوبتكم. كيف يمكننا الحفاظ على الهوية الوطنية الإماراتية مع التركيز على الابتكار؟ تشجيع الابتكار الثقافي. شكرا كتير أخت موزة، لأنه نحن إذا عملنا ابتكارات جديدة بس بتشجع أشياء تخص الهوية الإماراتية، فمعناتها نحن عم نشتغل على الموضوع بطريقة جدا ذكية. استخدام التكنولوجيا لحفظ التراث مثل البرامج، يعني برامج اللي هي بتعزز التراث، نشر هاي البرامج باستخدام التكنولوجيا كمان. هيدي فكرة جدا حلوة ممكن انه نستخدمها. ربط الإمارات في التطور والابتكار، التغيرات وتنوع الثقافات. دعم المشاريع الشبابية. شكرا كتير أخت لبابة، بعتقد إن شاء الله أكون عم أقول اسمك بطريقة صح. دعم المشاريع الشبابية وخصوصا الإماراتيين الشباب، دعم مشاريعهم. استخدام التقنية للحفاظ على التراث، اللي هي أكيد عم تحكي عن ديجيتال بلاتفورمز وتطبيقات اللي هي بتحفظ التراث وبتدعم التراث. تنظيم فعاليات ثقافية كمان، التركيز على الاستدامة أكيد. إدخال التكنولوجيا، تشجيع الابتكار. عرض الأدب الإماراتي والشعر الإماراتي والروايات والكتب والقصص. حلو كتير، كتير حلو. شكرا كتير. يعني الأفكار الموجودة نقدر نعمل منها أكثر من 10 أفكار تطبيقات كتير حلوة. رح نرجع هلأ على السلايدز، بس بدي منكم تخلوا البادلت موجودة، لأنه رح نرجع للبادلت مرة تانية. alright. اوكي. هلا رح نكمل. شكرا كثير لجميع اللي شاركوا. رح احكي شوي عن اليابان. برأيكم ليش انا اخترت اليابان؟ اليابان هو بلد جدا متطور، عنده ابتكارات بالتكنولوجيا رائعة، عنده أشياء يعني بلد سباق صراحة اليابان. بس بنفس الوقت هن محافظين على التراث الثقافي، محافظين على الأشياء اللي لها علاقة بالثقافة الشعبية. عندهم أشياء مميزة they share it مع العالم كله بطرق جدا جدا حلوة. فاليابان هو من البلاد اللي سباقة، اللي هي سباقة بالأشياء المتطورة، وبنفس الوقت بالمحافظة على التراث وعلى العادات وعلى التقاليد. فأكيد نحن بالإمارات بنقدر نكون أفضل بكتير حتى من بلاد متطورة مثل اليابان. طبعا هون تذكير، نحن بهاي المرحلة لازم نتأكد إنه الطلاب عن طريق المهام الموجودة داخل الأمأس لازم يفكروا بأفكار تطبيقات والتحديات في دولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة. مثلا ممكن يفكروا بعدم التوازن الديموغرافي، التوسع الثقافي، العولمة. هاي الأشياء اللي أنتوا هلأ طلعتوا فيها على البادلت، أنتوا طلعتوا بهاي الأفكار. يعني أنتوا already عارفين شو هي التحديات اللي عم بتواجه دولة الإمارات. مثلا تحويل الثقافة إلى منتج. بكتير أماكن بنلاقي أنه بيستعملوا مثلا الجمل، بحطوا صورته على أشياء معينة لحتى يبيعوها. فهي تحدي، أنا عم حول الثقافة إلى منتج. التحديث اللي عم بيصير، مشاكل اللغة، السياحة مثلا الثقافية، التعليم، شو المشاكل اللي عم تصير عندي بالتعليم. لازم الطلاب يستكشفوا ويفكروا بدور التكنولوجيا، أهمية الإسلام، الحفاظ على اللغة، تحلي بالرحمة. هاي الأشياء كلها موجودة في الأمأس. فجدا جدا مهم انكم تدخلوا على الأمأس، والطلاب يتأكدوا انه يقرأوا المحتوى ويقوموا بالمهام الموجودة. طبعا لما نحكي عن العولمة نحن بنحكي عن التأثير الثقافي الخارجي. التكنولوجيا بتخلينا ننفتح على قيم وسلوكيات جديدة مش موجودة عندنا. اللغة حكينا عن تراجع استخدام اللغة العربية، الحداثة، التوازن بين التقدم. لما أنا أقول التحديث أو الحداثة اللي هي التوازن بين التقدم اللي عم بيصير بدولة الإمارات وبنفس الوقت الحفاظ على التراث. أوكي، نحن حكينا عن المشاكل والتحديات، هلأ استكشاف الحلول لهي التحديات. هيدا كله بعد نحن ما فكرنا بالتطبيق اللي بدنا نشتغل عليه. الأفكار. بينما يعمل الطلاب خلال المرحلة الأولى والمرحلة الثانية لازم يبلشوا يفكروا إنه أوكي، إذا أنا عم بحكي مثلا التوازن بين التقدم والمحافظة على التراث، شو التطبيق اللي ممكن فكرته تخدم هيدي المشكلة؟ فهون لازم الطلاب يبلشوا يفكروا بأفكار للتطبيق اللي بده يساعد بحل هيدي التحديات والمشاكل. هلأ هيدا جزء حلو من السيشن تبع اليوم. رح نعمل ربط بين الهوية الإماراتية الوطنية، المشاكل، ورح نختار تطبيق موجود بحياتنا وكتير منا بيستعملوه لحتى نشوف كيف حلوا هاي المشكلة وكيف عملوا هيدا التطبيق، شو اللي بيميز هيدا التطبيق. أول شيء رح نحكي عنه التراث. بالتراث قلنا عندي ركيزة التراث فيها اللغة، الثقافة، الدين. أوكي، تطبيقات لتعليم اللغة العربية. هلأ بدي منكم تعطوني رياكشن إذا بتقدروا، ما بعرف إذا بيقدروا يحطوا رياكشنز. نهاد بيقدروا يحطوا رياكشنز. مين استخدم تطبيق دولينجو؟ مين استخدمه قبل؟ أنا متأكدة في شريحة كتير كبيرة منكم استخدمته.
They can comment على Q&A.
they can comment على Q&A. اوكي، إذا فيك تقولي لي نهاد إذا عم تاخدي comments. هيدا التطبيق جدا معروف. هل في ناس عم بيقولوا لك انه استخدموا
نعم
هيدا
نعم
التطبيق؟
استخدموا قبل. يس،
نعم.
في كذا حدا استخدمه قبل.
نعم، هيدا تطبيق تعليم اللغة، ومش بس اللغة العربية، تعليم لغات متعددة، وهو من أجمل وأسهل وأكثر التطبيقات استخداماً. ما طلعت إحصائية لأقول كم مرة منزل التطبيق وكم شخص مسجل عليه وبيستعمله، بس هو فعلا من أجمل التطبيقات. بدي إياكم تركزوا معي ونحن عم نعمل تحليل لهيدا التطبيق، لأنه هيدا الشيء رح يساعدكم لما تكونوا عم تفكروا بفكرة التطبيق تبعكم. أنا رح أخدم عنصر اللغة العربية اللي هو عنصر أساسي في اللغة في الهوية الوطنية الإماراتية عن طريق استخدام هيدا التطبيق. كيف؟ بتعليم اللغة العربية. فمثلا هلأ رح أعمل بلاي لهيدا الفيديو. بدي منكم تشوفوا الواجهة، بدي منكم تركزوا على كيف بيتم طرح الشاشات ورا بعضها. يعني بشو منبلش؟ شو الألوان؟ تصميم اللي موجود، هل هو معقد؟ هل هو سهل؟ فهلأ رح أعمل بلاي للفيديو وبدي منكم تركزوا على لما أعمل بلاي، وبعدين رح نناقش اللي شفناه. طبعا هون ببلش بطرح بعض الأسئلة ليتعرف أكثر عن احتياجاتك. فينا نشوف نحن كل اللغات موجودة. بيسأل كيف سمعتوا عن هيدا التطبيق. بعدين إذا أنت اخترت العربي بصير يسألك ليعرف مستواك، قد ايه بتعرف عربي، شو الليرنينج ستايل تبعك، قد ايه عندك، قد ايه بدك وقت كل يوم تتعلم، كم عدد الكلمات. اوكي، اعطاك هدف او جول ممكن انك تحققه.
Oui.
اوكي. طيب تمام. هيدا هو التطبيق. شو رأيكم بهيدا التطبيق؟ إذا بدنا نحكي عن ألوانه، ألوانه جدا رائعة. إذا بدنا نحكي عن الفئة المستهدفة بشكل عام، ما بعرف إذا عندك إجابات نهاد.
عم بيجيني إجابات.
يا الفئة المستهدفة، شو هي الفئة المستهدفة برأيكم لهيدا التطبيق؟ هل هن الأطفال، المراهقين، الكبار بالعمر، المدرسين؟
الجميع، الشباب، teenagers, kids،
نعم نعم
الجميع،
نعم.
كل الأعمار.
كل الأعمار، من الأطفال للكبار. أي حدا بده يتعلم لغة، بده يروح على أي دولة، بيفتح على هيدا التطبيق وبيبلش يعلم حاله. بأسبوعين تقريبا بتقدر إنك تبلش يعني تستخدم الأشياء الأساسية. فهو لجميع الأعمار، لسهولة استخدامه وسلاسته، بلس انه هو نحن بنقول التعلم باللعب، يعني هو جيميفايد. فهو بيعطيك هدف. كل ما تحقق مثلا هدف معين، كل ما رفعك ليفل، بيعمل لك تارجتينج او بيستهدف الاشياء اللي انت لما سألنا عن الليرنينج ستايل، فهو عم بيشوف نحن كيف نتعلم بطريقة بصرية، بطريقة مثلا سمعية، لحتى يعطينا الأشياء اللي ممكن تساعدنا أكثر. فهيدا أول تطبيق. رح نمشي لنشوف التطبيق الثاني. في تطبيق جدا رائع وغني بالمعلومات، هو اليونسكو، اللي هو الورلد هيريتج، هو هيدا اسمه التطبيق. بيركز على المواقع التراثية بالإمارات. ما بعرف إذا حدا فيكم يمكن شافوا أو استعملوا لهيدا التطبيق. بيركز على الأشياء التراثية، الأشياء الحلوة ببلد الإمارات. هيدا التطبيق رح هلا نشوف كمان فيديو، ورح نعمل مقارنة بين التطبيق الأول والتطبيق الثاني. أوكي، رح أعمل بلاي للفيديو، بدي إياكم تركزوا. Is it playing? Oh, yeah. Okay, perfect. من الواضح أنه التطبيق مقسم بطريقة كتير حلوة. فيه معلومات، بيعطيك ليست عن المواقع اللي موجودة، بفرجيهم على الماب، بيعطي صور وانفورميشن عنهم. فبكل بلد مثلا list عن الأشياء and so on. Okay, that's interesting. بس برأيكم طريقة العرض، طريقة الألوان، طريقة الانترفيسز، أيها أفضل بالتطبيق الأول أو الثاني؟ إذا كنت مع الأول حط رقم 1، إذا كنت مع الثاني حط رقم 2. وخلينا نشوف. نهاد بدي عزبك بليز.
أكيد كلهم نقوا تقريبا رقم واحد،
رقم
الأكثرية.
1. نعم نعم. طبعا هيدا تطبيق رائع وجدا مفيد، بس صعب يستهدف جميع الفئات العمرية. يعني هيدا تطبيق مستحيل ولد بعمر مثلا year 6 أو year 7 إنه يكون interested إنه يقرأ هاي المعلومات. يعني ناس معينين رح يكونوا interested، بس مش كل الفئات العمرية. ليش؟ لأنه فيه كتير معلومات، طريقة العرض مرتبة ومنظمة وقيمة، بس منا جذابة جدا. ألوانه شوي فيها رتابة، أو يعني منا كتير بتحس بأنه الواحد مشدود أنه يرجع يفتح هيدا التطبيق. ما فيه تعلم باللعب كمان. فهي أشياء كلها بدكم كتير تنتبهوا لها، لأنه جدا مهم أنه نركز. نهاد قد إيه بعد معنا وقت؟
ربع
ربع
ساعة.
ساعة. اوكي. اوكي. غطينا مثالين لتطبيقين لهم علاقه باول بيلر او اول ركيزه. هلا ثاني ركيزه اللي هي القيم والاخلاق. شو التطبيقات اللي بتدعم القيم والاخلاق؟ اول شيء التعاطف. كيف انا ربطت التعاطف وربطت هيدا الاب اللي هو فتنس تراكر اب. طبعا في كتير منهم، بس شو العلاقه بين فتنس اب أو اللي هي تطبيق للياقة والصحة النفسية، كيف أنا ربطته بالهوية الإماراتية. طبعا إذا أنا كشخص صحتي النفسية جيدة، فأنا حتى اللي حوالي والأشخاص اللي عم بتعامل معهم، سواء داخل العائلة أو داخل العمل أو داخل المدرسة، هي الصحة النفسية رح تكون ريفلكتد على الأشخاص اللي أنا عم بتعامل معهم. فهيدا تطبيق جدا فعال وجدا حلو. خلينا بسرعة نشوف فكرة التطبيق. التطبيق حلو، فيه ألوان حلوة، بياخد معلومات عن سوري بس معلش بدي ارجع اعمل بلاي لانه جدا مهم نشوف كيف شكله للتطبيق ونعطي كومنتس هل هو فعال. اوكي، هون بيدخل اليوزر او المستخدم المعلومات الخاصة فيه. بعدين لحتى نتأكد انه ينعمل تراك بطريقة معينة. اوكي، بعده عم يتعرف على المستخدم. بنشوف الايكونز كتير حلوة، الألوان كتير حلوة. هون بيعطينا أشياء نقدر إنه نعملها، مثلا معلومات معينة عن الويل بينج أو الصحة النفسية. فهيدا تطبيق حلو، بيستهدف كمان بعتقد أشخاص معينين بفترة المراهقين، ممكن اللي أكبر شوي، أكيد مش الأطفال. الاحترام والفهم العالمي والدين الإسلامي، هيدا تطبيق كتير حلو. إذا كنتوا مش بتشتغلوا بمدارس، أكيد أنتوا من مدارس، فكمدرسين كتير حلو أنه تستعملوا هيدا التطبيق. هو Islamic Treasures، بيعتمد على التعلم باللعب، فيه تحديات كتير، بيعلمنا الدين الإسلامي بطريقة جدا جميلة. فكتير حلو كمان أنكم تنزلوه تتعرفوا عليه. هو باللغتين العربية والإنجليزية. هو بيعطيك فيدباك أو تغذية راجعة بتستفيد منها. وكمان هو فيه التعلم المتدرج، يعني بتخلص أول ليفل بتنتقل للليفل الثاني للليفل الثالث. فهلأ المفروض نشوف فيديو عن هيدا التطبيق اللي هو جدا كمان جميل ورائع، وأنا بنصحكم إنكم تنزلوه. بتدخلوا الإيميل بالأول، لاحظوا التفاصيل، هاي التفاصيل كلها رح تحتاجوها حسب فكرة التطبيق تبعكم، رح تحتاجوها. هون دخل يوزر نيم، الباسورد، التليفون، الكلاس كود، اليير ليفل أو الجريد. بعدين بيعمل ساين اب، وبعدين المفروض إنه بعتقد that's it. فحلو انكم تشوفوا هيدا من التطبيقات الحلوة والناجحة، كمان حلو انكم تتعرفوا عليه. فهون الطالب بيختار student او parent. فإذا كان طالب، مثل ما شايفين في عندي تدرج بال اوكي. هاي بيعلم الصلاة، اوقات الصلاة. هيدا من التطبيقات الجميلة جدا، بنصحكم انكم تستخدموه اذا عندكم اطفال. طبعا هو موجه اكثر لمرحلة عمرية صغيرة لحتى يتعلموا اكثر عن الدين الاسلامي.
مس
alright،
حنان، سوري،
تفضلي.
عم يسأل شو اسم البرنامج الاب again؟
yes it's Islamic Treasures. هيدا هو الاب Islamic Treasures. اوكي تمام. هلا رح ننتقل هون نحن شو اللي بيميز هيدا التطبيق؟ هو التعلم القائم على اللعب، التعلم القائم على التحديات، كمان فيه تقييم وفيه فيدباك، التغذية الراجعة. هيدي هي الأشياء اللي أنا بدي إياكم تفكروا فيها، كيف بدكم تخلوا التطبيق تبعكم يفرجي هيدي الأشياء. alright رح نعمل سكيب. بعتقد عم بفرجي أشياء كتير حلوة ومفيدة. هيدا تطبيق هو بيدعم الانتماء. يعني نحن بعدنا عم نحكي عن البيلر الثاني وعم نعطي أمثلة على تطبيقات موجودة حالياً بتدعم الهوية الوطنية وتحديداً الانتماء. فهيدا التطبيق هو فهم ماضينا وكذلك مستقبلنا، بيدعم هيدا البوينت. فهو بيركز على الفاميلي هيستوري، الدي ان اي، هيدي الاشياء. بيستهدف فئة جدا قليلة بعتقد من الناس. شوي المعلومات معروضة فيه بطريقة معينة. بدي اياكم تشوفوا، تفكروا بالجمهور المستهدف، تفكروا بالتأثيرات الموجودة. اوكي، حسب الاسم صار يعطيني مين الاشخاص الموجودين بالعالم بيحملوا نفس الاسم او نفس العائلة. اوكي، هون بتحطوا مثلا اسم الاب وبصير بيعمل لينكس اكثر. هون هيدا التطبيق جدا حساس لانه لازم المستخدمين ينتبهوا لمواضيع الخصوصية. فيعني حبينا بس نفرجيكم عليه لأنه في تطبيقات حلوة بس الجمهور اللي بيستهدفها جدا قليل. أوكي، طبعا هو أكيد للأشخاص الفئة العمرية الكبيرة، ومثل ما قلنا لناس بيحبوا يفوتوا بهيدي التفاصيل. أوكي، إذا بنرجع على البادلت، إذا ممكن نرجع بسرعة على البادلت وخلينا بسرعة نفكر شو الأشياء اللي لازم التطبيق الجيد يحتوي عليها. رح نرجع على البادلت و I will do that so quickly لحتى بس نتأكد إنه ما ناخد وقت كتير. بعتقد إنه في منكم كتير ناس جاوبوها، بس أكدي لي نهاد إنه عم تقدري تشوفي.
اي انا عم بقدر اشوف. ثانك يو.
ممتاز. في عندي أجوبة من خلال ما تعلمته اليوم. ما هي بعض الميزات التي نحتاج إلى أخذها في الاعتبار بالتطبيق؟ عندي يجب أن يكون التطبيق يركز على الهوية الوطنية. ممتاز. ويركز على موضوع واحد. بيرفكت. في عندي كمان هون منصور عم بيقول، أستاذ منصور عم بيقول إنه لازم يركز على اللغة أو الدين أو التاريخ أو التراث. أوكي، بدي أشوف إذا كان عندي كيف شكل التطبيق. أوكي، منتدى تفاعلي، ألعاب تعليمية، دعم اللغة العربية. ممتاز. التركيز على الفئات العمرية وكيف نوصل الفكرة. شكرا كثير أستاذ سالم لك. التركيز على العادات والتقاليد. أهم شيء هون كنت حابة أشوف أكثر عن كيف آه، تصميم التطبيق، الديزاين تبع التطبيق، كيف منخليه مناسب لفئة عمرية معينة عن طريق تبسيط يعني ما تكون الواجهات جدا معقدة، نستعمل ايكونز والوان حلوة. اوكي، ممتاز. كتير حلوة الافكار اللي حطيتوها، بس كمان ركزوا على كيف شكل التطبيق وكيف انتقال التطبيق من واجهة لواجهة. طبعا رح يكون في عنا كمان أكيد سيشنز خاصة بهيدا الموضوع، إنه كيف نصمم الواجهات للتطبيق. alright. هون بس حابة فرجيكم. أنا هلأ مثلا صار عندي فكرة عن كتير أشياء إلها علاقة بالهوية الإماراتية، الركيزة الأساسية. فكيف ممكن أنا أحط أفكاري بطريقة معينة؟ فمثلا المشكلة اللي أنا بدي حلها تراجع استخدام اللغة العربية بين الأجيال الشابة في الإمارات. بس قبل المشكلة أنا فكرت بالركيزة. الركيزة هي الثقافة. أوكي؟ ثقافة، أخذت الثقافة. أنا عم فكر معكم كيف أنتم ممكن تفكروا توصلوا للتطبيق. باي ذا واي، هيدا اب كتير كتير حلو اسمه فري فورم، بيساعدكم انه تدخلوا مع بعض. فيه حتى انوتيشن. لو في وقت كنت عملت انوتيشن وفرجيتكم الاوبشنز اللي فيه. اكثر من شخص بيقدروا يدخلوا يعملوا برين ستورمينج او تحليل للامور. مثلا أنا اخترت الركيزي الثقافي، المشكلة هي تراجع استخدام اللغة العربية. لحظة، سوري، الركيزي هي الثقافي، التركيز المحدد إحياء اللغة العربية. هيدي فكرة تطبيقي. المشكلة اللي بدي حلها تراجع استخدام اللغة العربية بين الأجيال الشابة في الإمارات، حيث يفضل الكثيرون التواصل باللغة الإنجليزية. فكرة التطبيق رح أطلع أنا بفكرة اسمها لغتي. الفئة المستهدفة الأطفال والمراهقون من 6 ل 16 عام. طبعا وبقدر ابني أكثر على تحليل هيدا اللي أنا عملته. alright. إن شاء الله إنه الوقت يكفينا. بعتقد نحن خلصنا الأشياء الهامة. أوكي، تذكيرات هامة. بليز أكمل جميع المهام، أمثلة على العمل الجماعي، أحضر جميع الندوات، وتأكد من أنه فكرتوا كتير منيح بالتحدي اللي عم تحاولوا تحلوه وبالجمهور المستهدف. موعد تقديم التحدي النهائي 16 مارس، آخر اليوم، يعني منتصف الليل. اللي بنبحث عنه أكيد قلنا دفتر اليوميات أو اللي هي الأب الجورنال، نموذج التطبيق، وأكيد الفيديو. تواريخ الجلسات القادمة هياخدوا عنا سكرين شوت أو صورة عن الشاشة. تصميم وإنشاء نموذج تطبيق رح يكون ب 21 نوفمبر. وآخر شيء أسئلة وأجوبة. بعتقد معنا 3 دقائق. نهاد تفضل.
هلا واحد من الأسئلة هن ممكن استخدام أي برنامج للتصميم؟
لتصميم التطبيق نحن عندنا مستخدمين iOS، وعندنا مستخدمين أنظمة أخرى غير iOS. بالنسبة ل iOS يفضل أنه يستخدموا الكينوت، وإذا كانوا مستخدمين لنظام آخر فيهم يستخدموا فيجما. بس طبعا معهم حرية الاختيار. نحن بننصح بهودي النوعين. ليه؟ لأنه عندنا معلومات عنهم كتير، وانفورميشن ومحتوى داخل الLMS بيساعدكم تعملوا الأشياء بطريقة محترفة.
في سؤال انسأل مرتين، ما معنى مجلة التطبيق؟
مجلة التطبيق هي عبارة عن مجلة فيها معلومات كتير عن المسابقة بطريقة جدا مميزة ورائعة. وفي أشياء لازم تدخلوها بمجلة التطبيق. فيكن تنزلوها كPDF وفيكن تنزلوها كبيجز. كبيجز بتقدروا تضيفوا عليها وتدخلوا المعلومات اللي مطلوبة منكم. هي موجودة بالLMS. بلكي المرة الجاي منفوت ومنفرجيكم من وين بتنزلوها ومنفتحها مع بعض إن شاء الله.
اوكي، واخر سؤال، ممكن استخدام اللهجة الإماراتية في التطبيق؟
طبعا ممكن. هيك بتكون انت عم تفعل اللهجة الإماراتية وعم تركز على اللغة وعلى اللهجة الإماراتية. بيكون فكرة كتير حلوة ورائعة طبعا.
اوكي.
اوكي، that's it. نهاد،
Thank you.
في أي أسئلة تانية؟
شكرا لك. Thank you.
Thank you so much. شكرا لكم وشكرا للجميع، ونشوفكم إن شاء الله بالجلسة الجاي. وشكرا نهاد لك كمان
رح
للمساعدة.
ننتقل هلا للإنجليش version. Please
اوكي.
give us a few minutes so that everybody's on board. We are just going to wait for one more minute, Miss Philippa.
Yeah, I'm just going to bring up my screen so it's got the holding slide. Sorry.
Yeah, I guess we can start.
Okay, I didn't mean to do that. Good way to start, isn't it? Okay, hello and welcome to everybody. So as you will see on the screen, this session is being recorded. We will go through some of the general information before we begin, just so that it allows everybody some time to come online and to get themselves ready, and also to cover some of the basics. So welcome to the iOS Design Challenge. This is iOS Design Challenge 2024-2025, and this is session 2. We are already in session 2. Can you believe it? So this week we're looking at understanding challenges for the UAE in national identity and exploring how we can support and find solutions to those challenges. Those of you that attended the last session will know that I am Philippa Raithmel, and I'm here to be the host for your English sessions for these onboarding for the iOS Design Challenge. So we are going to be able to make sure that you have all of the information possible to make sure that you are successful with your iOS Design Challenge. So a quick recap on the agenda. We just want to make sure that you are all clear and happy with everything that's going to happen. So we're going to recap and give you some of the frequently asked questions that came up from the last session, and also the common questions that get asked all the time. Then we're going to look at phase 1 of the challenge, which you'll find in the LMS under the section for phase 1, which is all about understanding the challenges in the UAE's national identity. We're not going to go through any of the things on the LMS, but we are going to give you some insights into what we're trying to get you to be able to achieve from that. It's really important that you engage with all of the work that's happening on the LMS, as it is part of this whole course and project competition. Then we're going to have a look at phase 2, where we're going to explore the solutions and challenges. And throughout that, what we're going to be able to do is consider other applications, how they work, as well as doing a quick brainstorm using Freeform to develop some of the app ideas and questions. So, quick recap on the basics. What is the iOS Design Challenge? The iOS Design Challenge has been running for some years now, and it's an initiative for all students 13 to 18, created by Sandouk Al Watan in partnership with Apple professional learning specialists across the UAE. And it's all about being able to create innovative designs on using iOS design features and being able to consider how we can solve problems. So it's a really amazing project that you can take part in. It allows you to explore Swift coding fundamentals, learn how apps engage with each other and how they function effectively, which could be really key for today's session. You'll also be studying UX UI design principles for creating intuitive and user-friendly apps, and gain insights into strategic thinking and approaches for development of a clear vision for your design. You will master project management techniques, as well as organizing and executing tasks efficiently and effectively, and you will build and develop communication, teamwork, and collaboration skills for effective group work. Hopefully, you'll be able to also refine your marketing and sales technique and promote apps successfully. And overall, it's a great experience for you to be able to understand the world that we live in, as well as the UAE. So, 300 people will win Swift Accelerator program and have done for the past few years now. The iOS Design Challenge prepares you for this Swift Accelerator course, where you'll have 180 hours of coding instruction and project work. And as long as you have not won before, you will get a new Mac, an invitation to a graduation ceremony, and there will be a pro Apple level certification, as well as an opportunity to publish your app on the App Store. So to maximize your chances of winning, remember, we want you to complete all tasks. I've already mentioned the learning management system, the LMS. That is a place where you can show effective examples of teamwork, and attending the webinars and guest sessions that are coming up are also going to be really important. Ensure that you have really considered the challenge that you're solving and the audience you are targeting. Again, that is a really key message from today's session, so please bear that in mind. Remember, we're looking for 3 things. We're looking for a journal, an app prototype, and a pitch video. Your pitch video is 3 minutes, so it's not long at all. It's really important that you give a real clear commitment to the challenge. You understand the topic, which is UAE national identity, and you give a complete overview of your working prototype with a compelling idea and a consideration of your user. So we're going to talk a lot about target audience today, and they are your user. In the last session, a lot of you were asking about the certificates that you get. So there are 2 certificates specifically, and one of them is for app development with Swift. And you'll get that after you complete your 180 hours of training. And in a few weeks, you'll be able to have a chance to hear from some of those winners. The second certificate you get will be a completion certificate from Sanju Kalwatan, showing that you've completed the 6-month training in Swift app development, all of which you can put forward onto your CV and resumes for your future. So, really excitingly, you were asking for it, so we have delivered, and we have got some of those fantastic winners from the past 2 seasons to be able to come back and speak to you about their experience. And that's going to happen on the 5th of November, so pop that into your diaries because it is not many days away. And in the session, you'll be involved with previous winners who are working on their 180 hours of training right now, but also people who've completed it and have been able to give you a real clear expectation of what you can do and get out of that course. Okay. There were some other questions that came up as part of the last webinar as well. And so things like, where can you access recordings of the meetings? They will be shared out to your teachers, your club leaders. And when the course invitation and names and the LMS for the tasks are all going to be sent out to you as soon as you have got your teachers to sign up. So remember, to gain access to register for the competition, the QR code is on the board right now if you haven't done it, but you must have a teacher register first. Once the teacher has registered, you are able to then process you as a participant, and they will do that for you. If you're a student on this call right now, they will do that part for you. Again, to clarify, it was a big question. How many winners are there? There are 300. And to clarify that means that actually you could be a team of 4, all 4 of you, because you are working as a team. There should be no one person holding anyone up. You are all going to be able to get those different prizes, and you will get one each. So that's really, really important. Okay. And then, is it fine to go solo? Absolutely, you can, but we recommend that you do teams of 4. And the reason for that is because the project has been created to be a collaborative project. We need to be able to work with other people because they all have different facets and things that they are really great at, and we need to be able to bounce those ideas off one another to make our app the best possible. Okay. Another question was, what app or website do we use for the app prototype? Well, again, in the next session coming up, we will be looking at what app prototyping software to use, but we focus in on Figma and Keynote. Figma you'll have access to in terms of your workbook if you are a non-iOS user, and Keynote is what we will show you how to be able to use, and that is the Apple app version. So you can use other software, but we will not be focusing in on those specifically. It will be up to you to be able to use that yourself. There was a question about the needs of users according to the rubric. So the rubric doesn't specifically talk about who your user is. You must define that yourself. And again, we're going to talk a little bit more about that target audience today. The last submission of entry is the 16th of March at midnight. So not the 17th of March, not the 15th, the 16th at 00 hours in the middle of the night, or actually I should say 23:59 at just before it clocks over to the next day. Registration is open now as well. That was another question. And the training sessions that you're going to receive in the webinars for the month, there are 5 sessions like this in total. And then, as we've already mentioned, there is one coming up, which was a special session that's going to be put on for you. The final question that was asked several times was, is it possible for us to share our app prototype to people outside of the competition for testing and feedback? And it's a great question. Parents and teachers, for example, was given. Absolutely. You need to be testing your app out on the person who you feel is your target audience. So if your target audience is people of your parents' age, absolutely. However, if it's people who are your age or younger, you should be trying to actively go out there and trying to speak to them about what they think about your app, so that you can then ensure that you have made all the right decisions about the usability of it. Okay. So just as a quick reminder as well, don't forget, if you are a club leader, we have a dedicated WhatsApp channel where we will be sharing key dates and information, any updates, and any additional sessions that might be coming on, just like the one on the 5th. Okay. Finally, any questions that you have that we haven't been able to answer on this webinar or any of the other areas that we've got these answers, please email iosdesign@salwatan.ae. These things will come up at the end again. So, the UAE's national identity. This is this year's theme. You're going to be focusing on creating an app prototype that addresses real world problems, not pretend problems, things that are happening every single day. What makes a positive impact by emphasizing these areas is going to be hosted around the idea of UAE national identity, and we're going to be looking at heritage and values. So before we move into the first phase of this webinar, one of the things that I want you to consider is whether you think you are on target right now. So have you enrolled? Are you ready? Have you familiarized yourself with the content? Have you connected to that WhatsApp? If you've got 3 ticks, excellent. And for students, have you completed task 1? Have you built your team? Have you logged onto Canvas and connected to the Figma board, or potentially downloaded the app prototype journal as a Pages document or a PDF? Those are really, really important, because those are the elements that you're going to have to re-upload at the end to be able to be a winner. So, as we mentioned, this app is about focusing on real world problems and solving something that you are going to design for a specific user's need and the meaningful promotion of the theme of UAE national identity. So we don't just want it to be something that's flippantly mentioned, or we also don't want you to kind of go for all of them together and try and push every single theme in from UAE national identity. We want you to get students to think about the opportunity to foster innovation and creativity through the lens of the UAE's rich cultural heritage and values. And the aim from that is to inspire a deep sense of connection and pride in the UAE's heritage, whilst equipping all students, participants, and the users of those apps with the skills to innovate and lead in digital era. So as a quick reminder, there are 2 pillars. You only choose one of these pillars. The first pillar is heritage, with culture, language, and religion. Okay, it's aimed at really exploring that rich culture, the aspects of Emirati national identity, and they should be looking at traditions, languages, religions, healthy lifestyles, and distinguishing things that make people Emirati and make you someone who is proud to be in this country. So the second one is values. We're looking at moral and ethical values and economic values, which again, you'll note are broken down. And this should really look at the diversity and inclusivity of global collaboration. Imagine when you're sat in your school, a lot of you may be looking around the classroom and seeing or in the school, up to 75 different nationalities. It's a huge, diverse population that we live in. And one of my favorite quotes of all time from His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Sultan Al Nahyan is, "A nation without a past is a nation without a present or a future." And this really resonates with this project, because it's really time for us to be able to reflect upon the past of the UAE and its culture and heritage, and to reflect on what is important to us. Because many of us, even if we are not Emirati, we live here because it is safe, it is inclusive, it is respectful. And so what we want to enable every student as a learner to be able to do throughout this process is to really be able to understand what UAE national identity means, what being and living in the UAE is, and how that can fundamentally support this journey. And so because of that, part of the things that we need to look at are the problems that we need to solve. Okay, and so students should be spending quite a lot of time on the LMS, working through the tasks and completing the activities to learn about the elements of the UAE national identity that they're going to need to choose from when developing their app. It's not as simple as just saying, oh, traffic's a nightmare in the morning on my way to school, so I'm going to make an app for traffic. Actually, we need to really think about culturally, what are the things that we really want to be able to explore to ensure that we can keep the country thriving. So we want you to share details about what you already know about national identity in the UAE. And as we go over the next few slides, I want you just to prepare yourself that we've got a Padlet that's going to be coming, and we want you to scan into that and start to take part in the questions that we're going to be asking. So just to cover over those, we've got the 2 pillars, which you'll see on the screen on your left-hand side, and the slightly smaller boxes are the subcategories that go within that. So we have heritage with subcategories of Arabic language, culture, and religion. And we have values where we break that down into 2 subsections: moral and ethical, respect, compassion, and global understanding, and economic, resilience, enterprise, and openness. Okay, so that's really key that we make sure we're really clear about what those are. So if I was looking at heritage, I would then be looking at one subcategory, not all 3. So I'm not creating a heritage app that is Arabic language, culture, and religion. I might just be picking religion, or I might just be picking Arabic language. Okay, so you may feel that there is some crossover with some of these, but we do want you to make sure that the core focus is on one, so we're not trying to do too much. And in the same sense, when we're looking at values, there are 7 subcategories. There are 6 subcategories, but we want you to make sure that you're looking at values and then you're actually selecting the right value. For instance, I go values, compassion, or values, enterprise. And how are you really going to be able to do that? So get ready, because there's going to be a QR code in the screen in just a second. But do not forget, the LMS is full of resources and pages to help you understand more about the UAE national identity. There are some incredible things in there that even myself, who's lived here for almost a decade, is still learning and understanding about the UAE. There are some absolute hidden gems, and it's really, really nice to be able to go through some of those and consider, how has the country modernized? How are we dealing with globalization? How are we dealing with what's called demographic shifts? So different types of people, different ages of people, an aging population, a young population, we've had baby booms, etc., global and economic development, a global economy, embracing modernity. So what does all of this mean in the context of preserving traditional Emirati culture? So here's that QR code. Pop it onto, scan it for me now. I'm going to come over to that in just a second. Whilst you are scanning that QR code, I just want to make you aware of what the questions are on there. So I'm going to move to that screen in just a second, and hopefully you'll have already started to populate that. So on the Padlet, you'll find questions that say, what are the key elements which define the UAE's national identity? So these are all in your opinion, okay? So please be mindful of one another, be respectful of one another. We want to see some really deep and interesting conversations happening here. If you like somebody's post, please feel free to give it a star or a like. What might some of the challenges be to the UAE national identity in this rapidly changing world? And how can we preserve the UAE while focusing on innovation? Okay, I want you to think about your current awareness of the UAE and have a think about what that might mean. Okay, so I'm going to move across to my other screen. And we're going to have a little look at our Padlet, and I can see already that people have started to pop bits of information. Oh, lovely. Someone's put hospitality. So the first one is, in your opinion, what are the key elements which define the UAE's national identity? I think hospitality is a really interesting one, isn't it? Because for me, there are so many cuisines, there are so many beautiful places to go and eat and have experiences in, that's a really great example there. Lovely. So we have another one. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit for you guys on this so that you can see. The Emirati national identity includes the Arabic language, Islamic heritage, national unity. Beautiful. What a nice word, national unity. Loyalty to the leadership, customs, traditions, tolerance, belonging, shared history, national symbols, and peaceful coexistence, which is so important right now, isn't it? And being proud of your country, that's wonderful. It'd be lovely to see some more coming up. If we can get some more people onto the Padlet, that would be phenomenal. I wonder whether, Norhad, can you put the link into the chat so everyone can see it in case they can't use a phone at the same time? So thank you, those people who have just added into those comments. They are lovely. And it's really important. So we're really trying to think of what the UAE means to you. So for me, it means beautiful, incredible sunsets, really safe communities. It means being able to have opportunity. And there are so many things that we can do here that we just can't possibly do in any other country. And that's really incredible. There is such pride, I think it was already said here, with for the leadership of the country, and that's really beautiful. It's also really unheard of in many countries, and so I think that's something that we should be really proud of. So let's move to question 2. And this one is, in your opinion, what might the challenges be to the UAE national identity in this rapidly changing world? We think about how quickly things are changing and developing in so many different ways. Even if you think about the fact that AI has only really been generative, since 2022 in November, and now it seems like it's part and parcel of everybody's lives. So these sorts of things, how do they impact and change the way that we live our lives? So please have a little look at those and just do a little refresh, see if there's been some more that I can't see. Amazing, this is better. There we go. I knew there must be something. It was all my Wi-Fi, I apologize. So this is lovely. Culture, religion, language, peace, Islamic and national identity. This is nice. The UAE's national identity is defined by a strong sense of unity rooted in its cultural heritage. I just think already I can feel like some of these applications are going to be phenomenal. So well done. These are beautiful. Respecting each other. Really, really nice. Arabic language, its culture and history, phenomenal. Absolutely. Inclusivity, absolutely beautiful. Please do, we are going to share this out afterwards as well. Please use this as a kind of instigator in terms of your thought process. So in terms of the rapidly changing world that we live in, what might the challenges be? And this is interesting. So to keep moving with the past knowledge and culture moving forwards into the future. So how do we hold on to that beauty of the past, where many may see it as being a simple time? How do we keep that going? I think that's really beautiful. And that would be really interesting to see if some of you can maybe try and target that question. That the Arabic language is rapidly decreasing, but the English language is rapidly increasing. Absolutely. That is such an important part of the UAE's culture and heritage, and actually even just local dialects as well, and understanding those dialects is really important. So how can we really prepare that world for change? And I think that's really important. Absolutely, move with the past and the culture, adapting to globalization while retaining Emirati culture. And then that is the real problem, isn't it? How do we get to keep hold of that and shine it really brightly? This makes me a little bit sad. It says people do not respect their own culture. And I hope that lots of us that are on this call specifically do. Again, being racially targeted, these are all problems, and these are things that we want to be able to see if we can try and solve. I think that's lovely. Yes, we've got a lot of things moving to the future, understanding ourselves, understanding the challenges. This is fantastic. This is absolutely phenomenal. And if this doesn't help spark some ideas for some of you who maybe were struggling with, how do I get into the context of this question? I think this is going to be wonderful for you. So question number 3, which you've all gone sliding straight into, is, in your opinion, how can we preserve the UAE whilst focusing on innovation? So we've got recycling, absolutely. My big thing with recycling here is, like, stop with the little bottles. How do we get rid of them? Everyone keeps buying them. We should start making environmentally friendly machines. Yeah, absolutely. Studying how we can progress and thrive. Technology. How on earth could we be doing this right now if we didn't have technology? And think about all the other things that we can do to help to sustain the future. Sustainability. So that's really interesting, because last year's theme was sustainability. So it would be really great if we could make sure that we bring some of that maybe into this as well, especially if it was things that you've learned and you really felt were important. Keeping culture and traditions alive and practicing them regularly, absolutely. Blending culture and traditions with innovation and sustainable development. I 100% agree with that one. Lovely. There's lots of sustainability going on here. So I wonder if we can maybe think about other things that are innovative that might also help to be able to bring in the UAE's values. So, for instance, I've been to a phenomenal place in Dubai, which is a cultural heritage site. And we were spoken to by some of the elders from a local Bedouin in Ras Al Khaimah. And they were telling us the stories and the ways in which they pass down those stories. And how can we maybe hold on to some of that, but bring that into the future? And how can we look at some of the traditions in terms of cooking and lifestyle, and being able to really retain that so that it doesn't die out? There's lots of different things in terms of, like we've mentioned language, we've mentioned all sorts of things. And so have a little think as well about how maybe that can have an impact. We seem to have a picture of somebody, so let's try to be sensible on here. Thank you. Be hopefully showing that we are good, positive digital citizens here in the UAE. So in your opinion, what role can technology play in preserving and enhancing the UAE's national identity? So we've got one here that says digital archives. It's a great idea. Absolutely. So things are available for future generations, because as we see around the world, and with such a frivolous lifestyle globally, people do just kind of have this trend to throw and pass things off. So absolutely. Technology can enhance the UAE national identity by enabling digital preservation, Emirati traditions, social media platforms, foster community dialogue. I love that. Yes, encourage people to speak in Arabic on there. Different roles in jobs, absolutely. And we've got lots of things here, definitely. It can play a really important role in just being able to sustain. I think this idea of social media platforms is really clever, because also then you get that connection. So you get that human connection between somebody and actually the practicing of the language. And, you know, as someone who knows very little Arabic, I feel like there's a barrier to my learning Arabic, and how could maybe that be broken down? Maybe it could be something to do with social media and technology. You know, hearing it, listening to it, speaking to people. I think that's really clever. Making apps Emirati themed. Nice. I'd love to see what that looks like. What does an Emirati themed app look like? Shoot Maktoum, Salim Rashid. Okay. Technology can preserve and enhance the UAE national identity, promoting cultural heritage and fostering engagement. And this is nice. Innovative expressions of traditional art. Love that, because the UAE is renowned for how incredibly beautiful their art is. So I'm going to come back to the final one in a little while, because we're going to come on to that later. So I'm going to flick back to our other presentation, which is here. Okay. And we're just going to have a little look here at somewhere that is not the UAE, but that has actually been renowned globally for being a positive influence, of being able to balance those two things. And so I would encourage you to try and have a look at maybe how other countries are doing it. And one example that we're bringing to you is Japan. And so considering Japan, it is known for its heritage and its culture, but also very much for its rapidly forward-thinking enhancements in terms of, and advancements in terms of technology. So thinking about that, you know, thinking about the landscape, if you look at that beautiful mountain and then you see this huge city below it, but we also have these beautiful pieces of architecture that still show through. And how do we really blend this cultural heritage? Well, they've managed to do that by bringing technological innovation into things like language translations, into things like culinary delights. So their beautiful food, how we create that, maybe how they deliver things like cooking lessons, how they deliver food to people's homes now. How do they keep that culture alive, that community? They have a lot of communal dinners. They do things like that. We also here have things where we would have evenings, and we would have, there's the coffee and all of these different beautiful things here in the UAE that we would do after dinner. So maybe it's something to do with preserving that and bringing that somehow into the future. There's incredible natural beauty in terms of the gorgeous places that you can go, the lakes you can visit. It's so clean, it's so fresh. They're so concerned with ensuring that their population is healthy, and it's so clean. Again, that's something that really resonates with here in the UAE. So what we want every student to do in here is to consider, in the work booklet that you've got, how are we being able to explore this and reflect on it? So you've got a beautiful Padlet there. It's full of really incredible ideas, and it's full of really, really great examples of things that we could potentially look at. What is the role of technology? What's the importance to UAE national identity of Islam? How can we preserve language? And how can we be compassionate? And so what we want you to do within that workbook is actually have a think about how you can put those into practice in terms of how can you create an app from that? And that's really, really important. So There are 2 pages within task 2 and 3 within your booklet that you'll find in the LMS, and you'll be able to work through those as a team to be able to look at what that means to you. So phase 2 is exploring those solutions to the challenges that we face. And to do that, we want you to think about phase 1 and phase 2 together. Okay, so you'll do those 2 tasks. And then reflect as learners and students to consider how this might manifest itself in an app idea. So over the next few pages, we're going to have some examples of apps that already exist. You'll recognize the majority of them. And I would like to reflect on the fact that I believe that they also can give some explanation to some of these values within the UAE's national identity, although be it maybe not as obvious. Okay, so let's have a look at these. Ignore the QR code on there, it's just to the Padlet. How can these things really reflect for us in the UAE's national identity? Well, let's have a little look at the key pillars. So we're looking at heritage, Arabic language, culture, and religion. And we have a very well-known and world-renowned app for language, which is Duolingo, where you can learn up to 40 different languages. So it's really important to consider who the target audience this is. And I'm going to say that word quite a lot, target audience. So who is it meant to be for? Now, often you have a target audience that you're very specific about. So for instance, this target audience would be people who want to learn a new language, people who are going to a new country to learn a new language, or moving and they need to learn something, somebody who is interested in language learning. It's not age descriptive because of the way that it's set out. It's very playful, it's easy to use. Okay, so each of these, we're going to have a think about who that target user is. Importantly, within this, so we've got a little demo of what it looks like if you've never seen it. The interface, the stories, and the things that it gets you to do. When you press the button, it makes a tapping feeling as if you've actually pressed a button. Throughout the first part of the journey, it takes you through some questions and builds that interface. So you can see at the top, I've got the green line. It's telling me how much of my app I've proceeded through so far. So I've got an idea of how much longer I'm going to be answering these questions for. It's finding out a little bit about me, but then it's also secretly finding out some information about where I found the app, whether I would be happy to have notifications. Am I okay to do location services so it can track where I am? Do I have confidence within what I'm doing? Where do I want to start with? How much time in a day? So it's very secretly kind of gathering quite a lot of data about every single person. Okay, and then it gives you a little test and it takes you through some of those basics and it kind of baselines you and says where you are. And so that's really interesting because it gives you an experience where it feels like it's getting to know you in the same way that a teacher might be getting to know you. And so those little things, those sensors, hearing, seeing something so you know where you are, you know how much longer you're going to have to spend doing things, how many more questions you might have to click through. The second application I want to show you is UNESCO. This is really interesting because this UNESCO is not for mobiles. So it is an app for iPad or for Android device tablets or for your MacBooks or your devices, okay, laptops. It's very different from the Duolingo app. It's much less interactive in terms of being engaging. It has much more of a formal feel, and you'll see that as we come up to here, okay? But you'll see that it has a very different target audience. So for me, this is not, I wouldn't be able to give this to 5 or 6-year-olds because it's not as engaging. But I might be able to give it to an adult, a learner, maybe university level, maybe A levels, maybe looking at kind of high school. It's very information based. It's very text heavy. Now, if I was not an English language native, it would be hard for me to read a lot of it. It does give some images, it gives some elements, but it doesn't give anything near as much as the colourful, bright elements that we might get from something like Duolingo. It's still quite tactile. You can pinch zoom, so that could be something you might want to think about for your app. What are you wanting people to do in your app? How are you trying to get them to interact with your application? What do you want them to see? How does it all work together? So for instance, this one has a whole map. You can see globally where all these different sites are. You can see them in list form. You can see pictures of them, but it really depends on how much information they've been able to curate from that area So you'll also note that certain parts of it have no pictures. And so there's a little bit of inconsistency there. And so I think there's quite a lot we can learn from that, not just about what we could do, but also potentially what we could make it even better. So then if we have a look at moral and ethical and economic within our values pillar, remember again, we'd only be picking out one. So the previous one, I would be thinking about that being heritage. So we're looking at UNESCO heritage sites. And so the next one, we're actually looking at compassion. We're looking at national identity and the compassion or potentially the resilience that we have in our own lives. And as much as we might not consider it, when we wear wearables and devices like this, they help us to become more aware of ourselves. And then in turn, we can be more aware of other people. We're aware of our moods, we're aware of what's good for us, we're aware of how to be healthy, happy, consistent, all of those things. Now, this app's target audience is clearly for a much younger person. You'll notice that the Gentler Streak fitness tracker icon is actually a heart shape. So it's actually meant to look like your heart is getting healthier. Okay, and it's all about us wanting to make sure we can focus in on our own health. And you'll see how this is quite a nice, cutesy little experience. It's really sweet. It's got a very small amount of writing, very similar to Duolingo. But remember, if we're younger, we're not going to want to sit there and read lots and lots of information. We want it to be short and snappy. We want it to be really moving forwards. Okay, so it asks you some questions. It tries to get to know you a little bit. And then it starts to build you again through a really similar journey. Now, one of the things that I want you to consider while you're looking at this demonstration is actually the fact that it's very interoperable. Now, the importance of that is it's linking into all the other applications that you're using. So when you're thinking about the app that you're making, are you going to link it with other apps? Is your app going to be an application that actually helps to bring all the apps together? So this links back to health. It finds out some information about you. It tells you about itself. It gives you tasks. It gives you things on track. And it starts to kind of think about making small things make big differences. So it gives you knowledge, but it has characters, so it's a little bit more fun, but it's incredibly personalized. And personalization within applications is very important to people's engagement levels. We have to make sure that we are engaged with the app to make sure that we are going to use it and go back to it. Okay, so you can see on here, really visual, big, bold types, funky, really nice, very, very easy to use. And then we come on to respect and global understanding. So global understanding is one of the pillars within our values that we've got here. And this app is called Islamic Treasures. It's a landscape version, you can't see it portrait, which means you can't hold your phone up like that, of an app, and it's about clearly linked to Islamic values. And Islamic Treasures has been created for students in schools, and it's been created because there's a gap of knowledge for schools in terms of getting students to be engaged and understand the values of Islam. And as well as that, many other elements and areas of Islamic studies. The cultural learning app, and it really supports the global understanding, as it's not just for native learners, but it's also for non-native learners. So it allows the idea to be able to move across from English to Arabic really, really easily. It allows to be engaged with by a range of different people. So it has different level settings. So again, you might be thinking about creating an app which is not just for one target audience. Maybe it's for a few. You might also be thinking about levels of learning, especially when it comes to language or topics such as this. You may have a variety of different levels that students are at. You can see here as well that we actually have students and parents. And what you don't see is that there will definitely be part of this application that's also for teachers to be able to put information into as well. But as a parent, you would be able to then see where your child is in the app, what tasks they've created, which activities they've been through. As a child, you'll be able to find out information and knowledge. So for instance, here it's teaching you the words, it's putting them in English, also putting them in Arabic. It locks down certain levels. So actually you can't just skip forwards and forget that you don't want to learn something and move forwards and move on. It gives you bits of cultural insight and bits of information that are really supportive to learning. As well as that, it's gamified. So for younger students and learners, it makes them want to go back because they want to be able to take part in this challenge. So it's a really positive way to be able to get students to learn faster in the same way, again, that Duolingo does, in the same way that the wearables do. It allows us to be engaged. The increased engagement wants us to go back, and it gives us feedback and information. So from that, we then want to be able to find out, what did my teacher say? How did I do well in that task? Can I go to my next level? Will I get an award? Will I find something else out from what I've done? And so the whole application allows the teacher to have information on the progress of the student, allows the student to be engaged at a higher level with learning. And so these are the things that we need to be thinking about in terms of what we're trying to achieve. And finally, the last application that we're going to show you is this one, which is all about belonging. Again, moving back to that gorgeous quote of looking to the past, but also considering our present and future, something like an ancestry app is really important for us being able to be more aware of who we are and understanding what our past is done. And what I really like about this, again, you can see the percentage of the development of where it has got to. You can see that it's a storytelling app. This app has a very specific demographic or target audience. It's for those who are curious about where they've been from. Maybe they don't necessarily know. Maybe they live in a country where it wouldn't have necessarily been their home country, but it's been their home for life. And so what was their country like, and how, who were their grandparents and great-grandparents, and what was their heritage and culture? And an application like this allows people to scour the world and have a look at all these different places, and allows people to visualize and be empowered by knowledge, but in a very personable and storytelling way that allows people to create their own journey, their own heritage. It tells stories of past connections, it empowers people, because technology, as we mentioned on the Padlet board, can empower those connections. It's incredibly visual, and it allows people to really gather that information quickly to create that timeline, to be able to share with their family. And going back to something we mentioned earlier, it also does ask questions that are data related. However, it asks people them in a way that is safe and secure. And we have to be aware of privacy and data because of the information that we're asking from other people. So if we're ever asking for information about us, about others in our apps, and you must be thinking about this as well for your app, is how are we doing that and how are we doing it safely? The UAE takes data privacy and security incredibly importantly, and it's really important that we make sure we respect that as well from other people. So I'm going to flick back in just a second to answer that final question on the Padlet, which was, what should a good app have? We've seen a few, we've seen some workflows, we've seen how we can navigate them, we've seen how design and icons and images have, and links and meanings, even down to the touch of a button on an app could actually have a bounce back feeling that makes you think you've pressed a button. How are we thinking and feeling when we're looking at an app? So what does a good app look like? So we'll just quickly go back to our Padlet and share that, and we'll have a little look. So let's go right down here because I want to see some at the bottom. The perfect app should always concentrate on the customer's feedbacks. Absolutely, that's really important, especially if you are a customer-facing app and you're trying to give someone a user experience. Definitely. It should have a goal or a message set to deliver to the audience. It should attract and hook the user and make them aware of the app's idea. Definitely, because they don't know why you're creating that app, then they're more likely to just not use it again. If we make an app about Islamic, we must write about Islamic values and respect others and respect beliefs and opinions. 100%, absolutely. A good app should be user-friendly, accessible, very important, and customizable. I like that because that brings that personality into it as well. It should allow offline access, have a search feature, social sharing options, strong data privacy, a feedback mechanism, and regular updates. Well, that's really detailed. Thank you. That's fantastic. Several key features to enhance the user experience and functionality. That's lovely. And the context, based on the context of preserving and enhancing UAE national identity, absolutely. This is really nice. It could be easy to use for the blind and deaf, and that is so amazing. There's a beautiful video that we're going to show you next time, and it's all about how accessibility features can really be empowering through a device. And that is so that I really love that you've written that. In my opinion, apps needs to have a culture of the UAE's heritage and language. Absolutely. We've got to have a lot of interactions, a good setting, maybe educational games for the purpose of education and making beautiful backgrounds and promoting the grand culture of the UAE. That's really lovely. User-friendly interface, absolutely. Relevant features, solving a real problem to meet the use of its target audience, definitely. Fast and responsive, that's nice. Yeah, we want smooth, minimal loading times, totally agree. Security is crucial, so please read this one, everybody. Additionally, we should work on seamless across different devices, definitely, because we can't assume that everyone has the same phone, because people don't, and they all have different decisions about what that looks like. So that's really important. Amazing. A good app should have a user-friendly interface. These are all brilliant. Look at this one that's got literally bullet points of it. It's fantastic. Very, very good. Everyone can read through these. Good UX, yeah, absolutely. Have a look at all these ideas because they are phenomenal. We are going to be able to share this out with you. We will send the link to everybody so that you have access to that. So thank you very much for participating, because it's really helpful to us that you really take part in these things, because it's as much for you as it is for us. So just before we move on to the final little task of this session, I want us to remember that before we can identify problems to solve, students as yourselves must spend time learning about the UAE's national identity. And you'll need to choose from them when you're developing your app, which you can find on the LMS. So you need to choose heritage or values, and then within those you need to select whichever pillar it is that you're going to focus on. And as I mentioned, there may be crossover and feeling of crossover, but focus in on what those specifically are. Okay, so we're just going to come very quickly to our free form, and I am going to share with you my other screen and we'll just finish with showing you this. So mine's definitely not as neat and clean as previously with Hanan. Hers was beautifully neat. However, I'm a bit more of a doodler, and so I wanted to share this with you, and I'm hoping that my iPad is also going to connect. So first of all, what I thought was really important was the what. What is so vital for our understanding? What are we actually focusing in on? What are we doing? Okay, that's really, really important. So for instance, with this one, I've taken the example of the UAE's UNESCO's cultural heritage sites, okay? Because there are 21 in the UAE, and most people don't know that that is even there. We don't know where they are. We don't know how we find them. Most of us find things on things like Instagram, and it might be because or Snapchat, because we've found that we're on an algorithm and all of a sudden TikTok's telling us about it. So actually what we need to be able to do is maybe think about, okay, well, how do we send this to the masses? How do we really pride ourselves in saying, actually, culturally, we look at heritage, and we're going to look at culture, and we're going to show to you these phenomenal places in the UAE, and we can look at the potential. Because the UNESCO app that we saw has not as much potential. It's not as engaging for young people. It serves a purpose, but we know it could be better. We know that from looking at other applications. So what we want to be thinking about is, as a team, using a brainstorming app like this. So this is freeform from iOS, but there's multiple things and different platforms that you'll be able to access, including you can use Figma for this as well. Collaborating on it and looking, okay, what is the pillar that we want to use? When you've done your research, finding out what is so important. Okay, and then we're going to look at why. Why are we looking at that problem? Why are we looking at that pillar? What is the problem that we're trying to solve? Because remember, if there isn't a problem, people are going to be less likely to buy into your application because they don't have a need for it. People use apps because it helps them to solve an issue. And that issue may be as simple as, I don't want to get up and go out and grab milk, so I need InstaShop. But actually, how do we really solve these bigger problems that are linked to UAE national identity? So for instance, with this one, the current site is not engaging. People don't know where they are in terms of the UNESCO sites. They don't understand what those UNESCO sites really mean and the value of them to the UAE's heritage. And then we start to look at who, that target audience question. Now, again, remember that could be a few people. So within this one, it depends which way you go. It could be an educational app for students. It could be something for young adults. It could be something for tourists to understand the values of the UAE. But what you need to be thinking about is how your pillar links to your why, to your who, and then finally, how. So what is it you're actually going to do? How are you going to create this character? How are you going to create this story that's going to link into why people might want to buy your app? What is it specifically that you are doing that is different? What information do you need to research? How can we move that forwards? So it's really important that you, together as a team, start to consider how you're going to go to the next step. Okay, so that was just a really quick example of something that you guys can do. And you can doodle away, you can put in links, you can add research you found, you can do the things that are on the LMS, you can find out lots and lots of information about the different pillars, and you can look into lots of different research into the UAE national identity, and also talk to people, speak to local people here who've lived here for decades, or Emiratis who have obviously been here forever. Try and get out to some of these places where you might be able to really find and understand some of those deep and meaningful reasons as to why UAE culture and heritage is so vital, and we need to have these apps to help to support its future. So to wrap up, let's have a look at some important reminders. To maximize your chance of winning, you have to complete all those tasks. So we've talked about tasks 2 and 3, sorry. You should have done task 1, which was creating your team. Then we're going to start to think about what those examples of effective teamwork look like. So things like creating mood boards, understanding each other, looking at where your passions have come from, how you can help to build that. Attend the webinars like today, and also the guest sessions that we're going to be putting on. Remember, 5th of November. Ensure that you have a really considered the challenge that you're solving and the target audience. Again, deadline 16th of March at midnight. No later. It can be earlier, but no later. What are we looking for? Those 3 things. We're looking for the journal, we're looking for the app prototype, and we're looking for the pitch video. We want to see that you are committed. We want to see that you understand fundamentally UAE national identity and the specific area you focused on. We want to see you've got a compelling app idea with a working prototype so we can see how it functions in example. And we also want to be able to think about your app user, so that target audience again. And we want to see that clear, interesting pitch video. Really important upcoming dates, the 21st of November, which is the design and create the app prototype. So we'll be looking at prototyping. Jan 16th, which is testing, evaluating and redesigning your prototype, because the first design will not be right. You will need to go back, you will need to get feedback, and you'll need to consider it. And then finally, the pitching your idea is the Feb 20th. So I will shout over to Nuhat, who hopefully has some questions.
Yes, we do. They're somehow similar to the Arabic ones. So the first one is, if you can just give them a rough idea about what is the app prototype journey.
The app prototype journey. Is that, yeah. So depending on what
journal.
Oh, journal, sorry. So the app prototype journal, you'll find in the LMS. If you are an iOS user, so an Apple user, you'll find there is a downloadable journal. You'll open it on Pages and you will work through the tasks. So there's lots of different things on there. It's about, in total, it's about 15 pages, but there's several tasks inside that. There's some that have just got information pages on there with links to relevant sites that you might need to go to. All the tasks are highlighted and linked in the LMS. And if you're a non-iOS user, you will have found a link to a Figma page. You need to go into Figma, you follow the instructions on the LMS, and you will open it, copy it, collaborate with your team. And there are pages on there that you need to have a look at, add your information to, and work together on.
Okay, another question that was asked several times, should the app be functioning at the date of submission?
So when we talk about the app prototype, we want to see basically what we'd call an MVP, so a minimal viable product. So we want to see at a basic level, what does your product do? How does it function? Maybe what the user journey is. So we want to see, like, if we click on things, it's going to move to certain areas. So yes, we want a prototype, but we don't want a published app on the App Store that you've coded. It is a prototype only, and that's why next session is going to be really important.
Okay. And one more question, can it be a game-like app?
Yeah, absolutely. It can be, as long as you've said what pillar you are looking at, how it addresses UAE national identity, how you then do that for your target user is totally up to you. If it fits the user's identity, their needs, and it does whatever you've said it's going to do, it could just be for entertainment. That's absolutely fine, as long as you've got your rationale behind it.
Mm-hmm. Now, one more question is, last time it was iOS 15. Is it still the same version of iOS this time?
For
using the device that's being used?
Oh, for the devices that you use, you can have them upgraded to whichever iOS you need to have them upgraded to. If you've updated yours and you're on the latest, then amazing. If you haven't updated yet, or you can't, that's not a problem. You also don't have to be an iOS device user. We have created products and items for you to be able to download and use if you're not an iOS user. So don't worry about that at all.
Okay, and one final question. Can they use Canvas to make the app logos and some backgrounds?
Again, we'll talk about certain apps on here. That doesn't stop people from using anything else. If you're confident using it, absolutely. If it's going to make your app look great and you feel really confident in that, perfect. We're not restricting anyone from using anything, but we won't necessarily talk about any other apps because we don't want to confuse too many people with too many things. Yeah. Amazing.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm done with the questions. You can wrap up.
Lovely.
If you'd like to.
Thank you, Nohad. That's brilliant. Yes, thank you. I will pop on the screen the dates for coming and say thank you so much and shukran. Good evening to everybody. And we look forward to seeing you again next time on the 21st of November. But don't forget as well, there is that specialist session from the winners in November. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.